Welcome back to the To Be Better podcast. These are question and answers today with the Chris's. We are fielding questions from email and TikTok just to shorten the Sunday podcast. So if you would like to read the first email, we're just going to jump right into this today.
All right. So this person said, I've been with my boyfriend for almost 5 years, and we never do anything together. One of his friends can ask him to go somewhere and he's ready to go. For example, I asked him to go to Walmart with me one day and he refused to, but while I was gone, a friend of his stopped by and they went out together.
As into Walmart together?
She didn't specify,
Okay.
just he left with his friend. He didn't try to call and see where I was or anything, and it makes me feel like he's embarrassed of me or doesn't want to be seen with me. When he does go somewhere, he's always saying, I am going instead of we are going, or do you want to go with me? Am I making something out of nothing and being petty? I have tried to talk to him about it numerous times, but it always leads to an argument. I don't expect him to take me out on a date every night or spend every waking second with me. I just don't want to feel like I'm his roommate either. Any advice would be greatly appreciated.
So I'm going to touch on the part that stood out to me the most is the anytime he goes out, he says, I'm going, and says, do you want to go with me? We have had that conversation numerous times because I don't want you to go if you don't want to go.
Right.
So me asking you, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to run to the store, you want to go?
No, he never asks that.
I thought she said that.
So she said,
do you want to go with me?
He always says, I am going instead of we are going or do you want to go with me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I misunderstood then. Because, in that scenario, I want you to want to be there.
Right.
But that's obviously irrelevant.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's, there's not a whole lot of information here. It's a relatively short email, probably one of the shorter ones that we've gotten. I feel like there might be some underlying hostility there.
Right.
Or like, why would you not want to be around your partner? And if you don't want to go somewhere and then somebody shows up and you leave, like, is he going out of obligation to his friends? Is he going because he really just didn't want to go with her?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Just from that perspective, that's really like a shitty feeling to have.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being like, hey, babe, you want to go out with me? And you're like, no. And then 15 minutes later, I find out you're out with Tim doing something. I'd be like, damn,
Right.
bro. Especially if it's a repetitive pattern.
Yeah. I wonder how it's being brought up.
I was about to say, I'm wondering how she's conveying it to him.
Because if she says something along the lines of, every time you do this,
Right.
you make me feel like it's going to create conflict.
If it were me, I would approach a situation like, I've noticed when I ask you to go somewhere with me, you don't want to go. Is there a reason?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even bring up the fact that he goes out with his friends
Nope,
constantly.
I wouldn't either. Because
Right.
it's going to create conflict. And it's
Yeah.
not about his friends. It's about the two of them. So, yeah.
I would also lead into that with, it feels like you don't want to be around me or you're embarrassed of me. Exactly what she said in the email, I would tell him.
I would let that conversation simmer before throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I would rather like get the beginning of that going and have the conversation engaging before throwing that in. Because if you start it with that and then he immediately gets defensive, you're not going to get any kind of results from the conversation.
True.
So if you do what you said and you start the initial conversation that way and let him start talking a little bit, then you can ask him like, well, are you embarrassed by me? Am I not to your standards? What has changed? Because I'm assuming at one point they did a lot together if they're together. And that could be the question that needs to be had. Like, what has changed between us? What do we need to fix to make it so that, you enjoy my company?
Yeah. And as always, be prepared for a really shitty answer. It might be something that you don't want to hear that you have to work on in yourself, but that could be part of the solution.
Yeah. I'm going to read a second question for this because that was so quick.
Okay.
All right. Actually, I'm just going to read this email. This is the one that is more of just a thank you.
Okay. I always like those.
It says, Dear Chris and Chris, I'm sure you have a busy inbox and a busier schedule now, but I'm hoping that you find this. I'm sharing this with you and hope that it gives you hope and to say thank you. That was a lot of hope in one paragraph. Sorry. I grew up in a strict polygamist cult, and my father was extremely abusive. My mother stayed home, and as a family, we collectively learned to walk on eggshells and hold our breath. I was not allowed to watch TV with my brothers, being sent into the kitchen with mom instead at 5 years old, because I'd have to do that someday, etc. When my mom gave birth to my baby sister at home, she was still doing the dishes and cooking dinner that night while dad watched the news. This was our normal. That's fucking intense.
That woman gave natural birth at home with no drugs.
And then did the dishes.
Oh my gosh. That made me nauseous. I'm flabbergasted.
That's intense. That's okay. At 12, I planned to be single and independently wealthy, and I would adopt my children. I hated men so much. Period. At 14, I was engaged anyway. What the fuck? And my first experience of sex was too much to type here, but it left scars on my soul. My mom got me out at 17, which I'll be forever grateful for. Like, this is like legit cult shit, okay? I met a man who is now my husband at 18. We married at 20 after I told him no to marriage multiple times. For a long time, I was an angry woman that you find in your comments. Yep, I find a lot of those in my comments. The one who can't take her armor off for a moment and whose home has become a battleground. Being a wife, being a mom scared me to death. Every dish washed and every meal cooked, making me fear I was becoming my mother and risking my freedom and safety. I pushed him away. I was cold, demanding, walled off, criticizing, and mean. He became silent, withdrawn, neglectful, and sharp with his words. At 25, we found ourselves on the edge of divorce, friends and family encouraging us to separate. We both had cheated. Neither of us wanted to be home. I am now 30. We have 3 kids and have done a lot of work since then. I have spent countless hours in therapy and self-help and have come a long way. It is a real life miracle that we are still together and especially that we are in a good place, but we still have more healing to do. At first, your video shook me. I was intrigued and couldn't put my finger on why, resisting to comment at first and just observing quietly. I have faced trauma enough to know when my soul is calling me to listen. You have both been a balm to my spirit. Chris, this Chris, you're helping me heal my relationship to men in general. Your presence, the way that you speak, and the things that you say are connecting dots for me. Chris, you are an example of the woman I strive to be. Your presence and mindset give me a direction to walk in. The world needs more conversations that you are having, the example that you are setting, and the hope that you are giving. We are beginning to have conversations I've never had the vocabulary or the bravery for. I'm healing wounds I didn't know could be healed. And I'm saying out loud that I actually feel satisfaction from perfectly folded towels.
Girl, me too.
That's still a little scary, but we are getting there. I wish I could sit down with you both over coffee and give you a hug. This email will have to do. Thank you both for your bravery and commitment. You are truly making the world a better place. Sorry this was so long.
I feel like I was just taken on a roller coaster I didn't give permission to be on. That was a lot.
It was a lot.
Ooh, I forgot how intense that was. I have goosebumps.
Could you imagine being betrothed at 14 years old?
No.
Through like an arrangement?
I was having existential crises at 14 years old.
I know that that's still a custom in a lot of parts of the world, but it's not here. So it's very foreign to us to hear those things.
It's very jarring to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And she said that we're brave at the end of that email?
Yeah. So let's think about this for a minute. We have a lot of people reach out to us, and we constantly say that we don't want to be the reason that people break up.
Right.
And there has been times where people have said shit to us and sent things to us, and we're like, we don't know what to tell you here. Like, unless you have to do the communicating, you have to do all of that. But if things don't change, you don't have an option. This is not a safe thing.
Right.
They both cheated.
Yeah.
They were getting ready to get a divorce. They didn't want to be around each other, and they started working through their bullshit, and they're both super happy now. Which just proves that it doesn't matter how bad things are. If both people are willing to do the work, you can resolve a lot of things,
Right.
and granted that was 5 years ago. They did it. They did the work, and she's now falling into her feminine and like wanting to be that woman in a house
And she's feeling comfortable with it.
that she didn't want anything to do with as a kid.
And, that email also shows like there's women in our comments that saying there's no coming back from cheating.
Yeah.
You can't trust somebody. If both people put that work in, they're happy now.
Yeah.
And they're getting to a point where their relationship's getting healthier. I just think that's dope.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's a lot. I really enjoy when we get emails that are positive like this because we get so much negativity.
We really do.
And when I say we get a lot of negativity, I don't mean that it's just people shitting on us, because none of the emails that we've received have been that way. They've all been, we need advice, we need help. What do you suggest? And then the thank you emails.
Yeah.
And the thank you emails are the ones that mean the most, because when we read emails, when we get them back to back to back, it is exhausting. it's emotionally draining to read those emails
It
because
is.
like we're trying to find resolution for these people and to try to help people. So there you go. There's 2 emails that we've received. Obviously one was a quick whatever. And the answer that you gave, I think is fairly sufficient for the amount of information we got, because there was not a whole lot there.
Right.
Guys, if you are going to send us emails, you have to be as detailed as possible. I don't care if it's 19 paragraphs. The more information you give us, the better the information that we give you is going to be.
The more specific we can be about things. Specific.
Yep.
Specific.
Not Pacific, because that's an ocean.
Did I say that?
No.
Thank God. How embarrassing.
All right. So 10 minutes. That was a quick one. Want to do another one?
Why not?
All right. So then we'll see you guys on another video.